Welcome everybody this afternoon. We're going to look at some of the gradable activities in Brightspace. And this, for anyone who came, who was here this morning, Stan, I think you were here. Just going to go into my the Brightspace course that I was using this morning. And as you can see, I entitled it FIT Training. And what we did this morning was we created a module. That's what Brightspace calls any folder or a unit. If you're used to those terms in Blackboard, Brightspace calls any folder a module. So we created a module here in this little practice course I have set up, and in this module, we added some documents. We used the upload create button to add content. And so what this upload create button is really good for is to add any static content, any content that students are going to read, or they're going to play a video or access a link. That's what this upload create button is great for in terms of just adding new content. Today, what we're going to go over is, you can see off, if those of you who have experimented maybe a little bit, you may have scrolled all the way down and see that, oh, I can create an assignment here, and I can create a discussion and a quiz. And it's true, you can create those from the upload create button. But what I'm going to recommend to you, sorry, I clicked on something I didn't want to. What I'm going to recommend to you is that for the content that we're going to create today, and those are going to be gradable activities, I'm going to recommend that you create those in their own areas. And what I mean by that is essentially we're going to focus on, now your FIT course may have a different layout of these menu items, but somewhere in these menu items, you're going to see a link for discussions, assignments, and quizzes. And if you remember from Blackboard, there were indeed separate sections for all of these items. In Brightspace, all of the editing power is in those areas of Brightspace. So in other words, all the editing power for the discussions, if I want to edit some of the content, if I see a few typos, if I want to change some of the parameters or something of a discussion, I need to go into the discussion area. And the same goes for assignments and quizzes. So it's in we call them the garages. There's the discussion garage, the assignment garage, and the quiz garage. And what I'm going to recommend to you is, when you create these kinds of activities, in order to have the full tool set that you'd probably expect when editing one of these, you want to go into those garages, those areas of Brightspace, and do it there. So essentially what we're going to do in this module, it's going to be sort of like a two-step process, in that I'm going to show you how to create each of these, and then I'm going to show you how to put them in line with the rest of your content. And again, this is the content that we created off of the upload create button this morning. When we put in the gradable activities, what we're going to do is we're going to create them in their sections, and then we're going to use this existing activities button, and we're going to pull them in from their sections. So that's sort of an overview of what we're going to do this afternoon. And so let's get into it.
Rob, I just have a quick question on
Sure.
on your bar up there, on that blue horizontal bar.
Yep.
You have something called course activities. I don't think we have that on ours.
So what
Yeah.
you might have is, you might have links that say, one might say assignments and one might say discussions.
Yes,
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're separate. Okay.
So they're separated out. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm well aware, and I appreciate you
All right.
pointing that
Same
out.
thing. Okay, same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Same functionality and all that. So I do recommend you click on each one of those when you're creating the respective type of activity. So so in other words, the first one we're going to do is assignments. So if you're clicking along with me, click on that assignments link. And again, we're going to create an assignment in the assignment section, and then we're going to insert it into the module with the existing activities button. So I'm going to click on assignments. And I already have a few assignments in this course. So you can see I've already created some here. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on new assignment, because I'm going to assume that your courses are blank at the moment. And anyway, we need to click on new assignment to see all of the features of the assignment form. Is there a question?
You know, I'm using my my imported. I imported a real class into the sandbox, but it doesn't matter. I guess I'll just add a new test assignment.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend. So just so you can follow along, and we can look at some of these things. Now, to my knowledge, there's maybe one or two things that are maybe different. One or two features that are different than the Blackboard features for an assignment. But of course, the look and feel is a little bit different. So let's check it out. Brightspace did a good job of this assignment form in keeping it all on one page. So what I do see right away, just as a note, the asterisk is a required field. Any field that has an asterisk above it is a required field, just like in Blackboard. But over here, these fold down. So I'm going to go through each one with you, but just so you can see that they expand, and there's some information we're going to want to add there. But first things first, let's put in a title. And so I'm going to stick with my my French theme here, and we'll just we'll call this one introduce yourself. Introduisez-vous.
Nice.
And so it wants a title, and then it wants to know how many points this assignment is going to be worth.
I was looking at that. Do we need points, or can we use grades?
So you do have to use points, but when we set up the grade book, that's on another workshop, the first of which is going to be on February 23rd, I believe. Sorry, I'm just going to jump over here. Yeah, on Thursday the 23rd, I'm going to show you in the when we set up our grade book. I can make it out of 100 points, but I can make the grade display for students as a letter grade. Okay.
Yeah, no, but it looks like they like points rather than percentages.
Yeah. To be very clear, yeah, Brightspace likes points. Okay. Because even if my grade book is set up in percentages, it and it will render as a percent. Your point is well taken. It wants every assignment and every gradable activity to be worth a certain amount of points. Now, it can make it so it displays only a percentage or only a letter grade, or both, for students when they receive the
Can
grade.
we use those points as percentage?
Yes.
50 points as like 50%, or 30 points as 30%.
I mean, when you put it that way, that sounds like it would be out of 100%. And if they get 30 points, they would score 30% on the assignment.
Yeah, you picked 100. I'm just wondering why you picked 100.
Because I make things easy for myself in terms of grading. I make everything out of 100 points, but I could easily make this out of 30 points. So this does not, I'm arbitrarily picking 100.
Can I just make a suggestion that because we're recording this to post for those that have missed this session, could we have certain pauses for questions and have Rob show?
Right.
Do you mind?
Sorry.
That'd be great. Sorry, I said that in the last one and I forgot to say it here.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's fine. Don't be sorry. It's all good. I want
Yeah.
to, and I will pause since we're doing three things today, essentially assignments, quizzes, and discussions. After each one, we'll have a little question period for, like for
Perfect.
assignments. Okay,
That'd be
so that's just fine. And then on this assignment form, this is where I would put it in the grade book. This is something I'm not so crazy about with Brightspace in terms of how it communicates to us. I could interpret this as this is already in the grade book, but it's not in the grade book. I need to actually put it in the grade book. So if I go to edit or linking, this is where I would put it in a grade category. Now, this assumes that I already have these categories set up. And I think for this class, I do. Yeah, I do. I already did it in here. But we'll be setting, again, on the 23rd, I'll show you how to set up these categories. But for now, I'm going to assign it to a category. And so I wish this would change and say in the assignments section of the grade book or something like that. But in any case, I put in a point value. I have to add it to my grade book. I just put it in the correct category. If I did not put it in the category, it would be in the grade book, but it would be rogue. In other words, there would be a column for it, but it would not be in any particular category until I assign it one. I can also put in a due date here. This will add it to my calendar and to the students' calendars. So if I make this due on the 24th, on their calendars, they will see that this assignment is due on the 24th. Just admitting Russell into the workshop here. And here's where I put my instructions. So what I want the students to do here. Now, if these are really, really long instructions, like more than like half a page, what I would likely do is I would link to the instructions, and this is where I can add a file attachment right down here below the instructions. I can add a file attachment. So if this is an elaborate assignment, I might not want to clutter up the page. I could say for this assignment, please read the attached file. And I could upload a file here. So if I do that and I upload it from my computer, we can pretend that, no, it's a JPEG, that these are the instructions. It's actually a W9 form, but you get the point here. So it would just, load the attachment below it. I could also, if I already have these instructions written somewhere else in my course, I have this link over here, attach link to an existing activity. This is kind of cool. So this is what's called a quick link. If I click on this link over here, it basically gives me a map of my course and says, okay, where are those instructions? So if I go into one of my folders, and let's just pretend that, this is the instructions, I could just pull in a link to an already existing document. Like instructions for discussion are usually repeated over and over again. So these quick links right here, and this is sort of the icon for them, are very handy in Brightspace. I can attach a web link. I can attach from my Google Drive if I already have something students need for this assignment, my Google Drive or my OneDrive. I can do that. There's also a record audio and record video feature in Brightspace, and we see these everywhere too. Something that has become really popular is audio feedback on assignments. And so we're going to see these buttons all over the place. And really what they do, they're called one button type of features in that there's only one button. I can't adjust everything and all that. I just click on new recording. It's fairly low production, but I can insert these things throughout my course. I can do it with audio and I can do it with video. Currently my video, it's going to tell me that my webcam is can't be accessed, but I'm using my webcam for the Zoom. So but just one button, record. If I don't like it, it plays it back for me right away. If I don't like it, I just hit record again. And so very easy to use. So that's those are the first bits of information here on the assignment form. And then over here, I get to adjust the availability dates. So as I mentioned this morning, start is when this becomes visible. End is when this goes away. So essentially on the start date, it appears for students. On the end date, it disappears for students. That's what those dates are all about. So there and these are on multiple types of items in Brightspace too. So if I create a folder for the midterm exam as an example, I only want that to appear maybe for 3 days or 4 days, and then I want it to go away. That's where these start and end dates are very helpful. These release conditions, these are for those of you who weren't here this morning, we also see these on lots of different types of documents in Brightspace. And what they are is Brightspace enables me to set up prerequisites for students to be able to access this document. So so a prerequisite would be like student needs to get a 75 or higher on a quiz before they can see this content. Or a student needs to read or access a certain amount of documents before being able to open up or even view this assignment. So I can set up those release conditions if I want. That's sort of like the topic for a more advanced workshop than this one. And then I can also create some special access to this document. And what that is that if there are any students that need an accommodation in terms of availability dates or due dates, I can click this Manage Special Access button and link, and it will launch up my roster. And it will ask me to select a student or maybe more than one student. And as soon as I select those students, it will say, okay, I can adjust due dates and I can adjust some of the parameters of this assignment just for those students, which is very handy. So I can open this up. I can, like if a student says, hey, I was in the hospital or I had some kind of circumstances that kept me away from the course for a certain amount of dates, I could click on this assignment. I could click Manage Special Access, and just for that student, I can open up this assignment. I can expand the dates, the availability dates just for that student. Under submission and completion, this is where I can adjust some of the parameters for submitting the assignment. So let's just look at what some of this is. First of all, by default, it's an individual assignment. If that's funny. No groups exist. Okay, so I haven't created any groups in this course. So if I had created groups, I would be able, there'd be a choice to create this as a group assignment as well. But as we see here, I have to create those groups first. Okay, so I just learned something. In this category here, this could be just a little bit, confusing in that this is not the category of the gradebook. This is the category inside the assignments section. So in the assignments area of Brightspace, I can assign this a category or put this in a category, and it will just sort things out in that assignments area for me and put this assignment in that category. So as an example, I can make this something like that. And that's fine. When I go to the assignment section, I'll look under French assignments and I'll see this. Under submission type, by default, it assumes that the student is going to submit a type of file. Okay, but I do have a few choices here, and what they are text submission. This would be if a student were just copy pasting right into the field. And so if it's just a pure text assignment, you know, something like a journal entry or something like that, I could choose text submission. For any instructors that teach face-to-face, this can be an on-paper submission. So what that would mean is that this is just going to create a column for this assignment in the gradebook that I'll have to fill out manually. But it will create that column for me. And so if I want to do that just to keep all my grades straight, I could do that. It'll create that column for me. Files allowed per submission, I recommend sticking with the unlimited. What if I choose one file, this limits my ability to tell a student to resubmit. Because if they can only submit one file with this assignment and they've already submitted it, they when they go back into the assignment, there's no resubmit button. So if I go into unlimited, they can submit as many files as possible. Most students do not submit more than they need to. So I think you're safe with keeping this at unlimited. Allowable file extensions are essentially, since they're going to submit a file, I can restrict the type of files that they can submit. So a lot of instructors find this helpful because usually they want like, you know, very specific type of file coming in. And so I know in FIT, you know, you have lots of proprietary formats that you work in with graphics, and I know PDF is fairly popular, but essentially what we can do is we can get granular in terms of what types of files we're going to accept. So here I chose the last selection here, custom file types. And what this enables me to do is put in the allowable file extensions. So as an example, if I put in .docx, it will only accept docx files. And it creates a little message for the students as well on the assignment form, and when they see it, that only docx files will be received. Here under submissions here, I would recommend all submissions are kept. I think these two are reserved for large scale classes, you know, where there's like 200 students or something like that. So so I think all submissions are kept is the way to go here. That way, if students do, you know, resubmit, you'll see all of the submissions that have been handed in. And then you can put in a notification email here. So in other words, like your campus-based email, if there's something special about this assignment or you want to be pinged in your email that you know, students have handed things in, you can put in your email right here and you'll get a notification in your email for that. And lastly, on this assignment form, there is the evaluation and feedback section. So here is where I can add a rubric, and I highly recommend using rubrics, especially for more elaborate assignments. So I think I may have some. No, I don't have any in this course, but if I had created some, this is where they would appear, and I could attach a rubric to this assignment. Rubrics not only, you know, as an example, I think I have a rubric here as an example. Sorry, I'm looking around, but I don't want to spend my time looking for something in front of you guys. Rubrics not only clarify the expectations for students, but they also, if you guys attend the grading webinar, the grading workshop, I'll show you how rubrics really expedite the grading process as well. So I'd highly recommend exploring rubrics and using them. These learning objectives, you don't have to worry about. They're not yet ready for prime time in Brightspace. And I think we can accept the default for making the annotation tools available. And I think this hide student names during assessment is for large scale classes with TAs. That's my assumption. And this is the assignment form. Okay, so questions. Any questions about how this works?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joe Mayorga. First of all, thank you so much. Thank you and Tammy for the workshop.
Sure.
Regarding submission type, if
Mhm.
I want to permit students to either submit a text or a file, should I just leave that category blank?
Oh, I see what you mean. What I would recommend is file submission because I learned this. So essentially what you want them to do is submit a file, but you also want them to submit some text at the same time, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so if you choose file submission, there's still a field for them to type into.
Great.
Okay, it's not clear from this form that that's how it's gonna, but that's how it renders for them.
So just put a file submission. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's Robert. I have my hand up here. I'll lower it.
Sure. Thanks, Robert.
Hi, Robert. The audio and the video is very, very interesting, and I think they're very short and brief, but they can really be helpful to explain an assignment.
Yeah.
Now, if you record one, where does it appear? Does it appear in that box where the instructions are, or what do they see as they go to access that audio or video recording?
Let's give it a try. Okay. I'm going to stop my video for a second, and that'll enable this to launch. So here it is. It's a one button deal, and I should probably move this over to my main screen here, just so I'm looking at it. So I click new recording, and I give my instructions, and I apologize. Can you guys see what I'm doing?
No.
No.
You're in your Brightspace training page.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Now we see it. Now we see it.
All right, so that's not going to work. So I click new recording again. Okay, this is how easy it is. One button. And I didn't like the first one, so I clicked the second one. And so I'm going to click stop recording. Whoops. So that'll do. Hold on. So one more time. Sorry, I click cancel. So here we go. For this assignment, what you want to do is, do your best.
A's only.
Okay, so I'm going to add that. So let me just show you a few things that you have here. First of all, you can put a title on it. And so, I'm going to just put this as a title. And these are reusable, by the way. I don't know if that you were getting to that question, Robert, but you can reuse them. And I can even put in a little description of what this is, how to succeed. And then this is super cool where I can caption it. And so if I put in my audio language here and I tell it to automatically generate captions, what this will do is it will caption this video. So let's add it. It takes a few minutes to render, but that was a super short one. And what I'm going to do here, Robert, and everyone else, is I'm going to look at this in the student view and see what it looks like. in
Right.
terms of, what it's going to look like for students. All
Right.
right. So let's pretend that I'm done with this assignment. So I'm going to save and close it. And, then it comes back to the assignments area. And here's where that category is. I put in French assignments. There's the actual assignment. And just for kicks, I'm going to show you here. By default, it comes out hidden. Okay, this is something that we have to do manually. Every time we create an assignment, if we know that it's going to, if we know it's ready for prime time, we're going to make it visible to users. And so I'm thinking that eyeball will go away. Yeah, so the way I did that was I clicked the chevron next to it, and this said make visible to users. So it's a toggle, and now it says hide from users. So I made it visible. That's something I can do in the module. And then as a reminder, for each of these types of items, we're going to create them in their respective areas. And then we are going to go into the modules where they are, and we're going to add them to the module. So let me show you how to do that. So I created it in the assignments area. I click on the content link. That's the link that shows me where all of my stuff is. And it's the main view of the course that students are going to be working in. Now, just so you're never surprised, when you click the content link, it goes into the view that you were last in. So the last time I was in the content view, I was in my unit 1. So here we are in unit 1. And as I mentioned before at the beginning here, this is what I've already created. Now I want to add that assignment. So I'm going to click existing activities. I'm going to go to my assignments. And here, very much like in Blackboard, it always defaults to the end of the list. Okay, anything new that's created always goes to the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to click on the assignment that I want. And again, what I did was I clicked on existing activities. I went into my assignments. I navigated to the actual assignment and I clicked on it once. Okay, so there it is. There's my assignment. I'm going to just pull it up a little bit into the middle of it. And so now I want to view it as a student. Okay, so I've put the assignment in its in the module where I want it to appear for students. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the student view, because every time we create one of these, we usually do want to see what it looks like for students. So the student view in Blackboard used to be a little eyeball up top. This one's just a little bit different. If I click on my name, and I have to be inside my course to do this. If I click on my name, I get a link for view as CPD student or view as student. So I'm going to click on that view as student link. And I put in a couple of attachments and stuff in that video, and let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on the module that, I just updated. And I'm going to go to that assignment. There's the assignment. This is how students would see it. And then, so let's see what this looks like for students. So, so this is how those links render right below whatever I write. And let's see what the video looks like. Opens up in a new tab. That's kind of nice. Whoa. Yeah, you might want to, check your makeup and all that. No, I didn't know it was going to be that big. And let's see if the captions work. So, let's see.
Should we be hearing your audio or no?
Hold on, I can make
Yeah.
it so you can hear my audio. What I have to do is, let me just stop the share for a second, share again, share sound. And let's see if the captions, for this assignment, what you want to do is, do your best. You heard it that time, right?
Yes,
Okay, all right, cool.
but no captions.
I know, no captions. I want to turn them on. Oh, I see. There we go. For this assignment, what you want to do is, do your best. Ooh,
Very
all
good.
right. Yeah.
Wow, picked up all your uhs and ums.
I know. It even said wanna instead of want to. I have to up my game here when I do captions. But
But
not bad, right?
I mean, it's really quite accurate, actually.
It is, and I tested it out in French a while ago, and it was spot on. And I thought the possibilities were crazy for foreign language with this captioning. One note that I should add here is that video takes up a lot of room. Okay, and Tammy will appreciate this. With Brightspace, campuses actually pay for storage. So if you're going to do anything like long-winded, you might want to, find a different way to create that video. So like
Yes.
the obvious would be to create a YouTube video and just link to it.
Yeah, YouTube, Screencast-O-Matic, and VoiceThread are all what we recommend. And VoiceThread and Screencast-O-Matic, we actually pay for the platinum version, so the captions are built in there also.
Oh, cool.
So any of those, yeah.
All right, great.
So quick question, if we already have a lot of VoiceThread videos that we've created, we can just link to those?
That's
Yeah.
right. So I think I wrote back to you, is this Lori? You should make an appointment with Jeffrey Ryman. We've already completed the integration between VoiceThread and Brightspace. It was a really smooth integration. And so those should carry over, but you want to meet with Jeffrey to make sure it's set up correctly.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have VoiceThread loaded up here.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
built into ours. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so just as a reminder, I was in the student view. We were looking at, how those things render on the assignment form. So I'm going to, in order to leave the student view, I click on my name again. This is how I got to it. I click on my name again and I X out the student view, and that's how I leave the student view. So when I X that out, I'm back in as the instructor. It defaults to the home page. And we're in this unit right here, this module. And so again, here's where I put the assignment. Now, I did it pretty kind of quickly there before I said I'm just going to move this up, but I should slow down a little bit and show you guys how to move things. Very much like in Blackboard, if we run our cursor over this little grid of dots here, we can move things up and down. So just so you know, that's how it works. It's very similar to what it was in Blackboard. Okay. All right, any questions before I move on to the discussions? That's what I'll do next. Okay, much like before, and again, you guys have a discussions link on your mini navigation bar, which, by the way, I think is superior design to this. But here I have to click on course activities and get to discussions. And just like with assignments, best to create a discussion in the discussion area. It's where I have all of the tools, the editing tools for me to, adjust anything in the discussion. And when we go into the discussions area, just like with the assignments, all of my discussions here are grouped together. So these are all different discussions that I brought over from Blackboard, et cetera, et cetera. Now, discussions in Brightspace require just a little bit of change in our thinking about terms, okay, essentially. Because when I click the little arrow next to new, I want to just sort of draw your attention to these two different terms. In Brightspace, when we create a discussion, we essentially have a forum, and a forum in Blackspace is really the heading title of the discussion. It's sort of like a little folder in which the discussion lives. A lot of us, when we bring our content over into Brightspace from Blackboard, there are going to be two titles, and as I'll show you right here, here I had the forum title is called Meet Your Classmates, and then this is called a topic. The actual graded activity in the discussions is a topic. So it takes a little getting used to, but the forums are essentially the headings, and the topics are the actual discussions, the gradable activities that students interact in. I've come to kind of like this setup because what it does is if I have a really large class, I might want to have one, a forum title of, something like French culture, and then I'll have topics such as art and maybe cuisine, and then maybe literature. I'll have 3 discussions under that heading of French culture. And so if I have a large class, I might want to break discussions into smaller groups. But in any case, there are 2 terms. The forum is the heading. The topic is the actual graded activity. So if I want to create a new one, let me show you how these work. So I'm going to create a new heading for a forum. And here I'm going to call it, I'll do what I just said, French culture. So this is going to be sort of like the overarching heading. And here I can say, something like, let's discuss. And here in the forum description, I don't have to give my full-blown instructions for the graded activity that students are going to engage in. But I do have a few different features that I can pay attention to here. Allow anonymous posts, not very popular, but for some discussions, maybe appropriate if, like I had one requesting feedback from students on the design of my course, and so that I made anonymous. But the second feature, very popular with instructors, users must start a thread before they can read and reply to other threads in the topic. Lots of us like that feature, so that their original response, or their first response to the original prompt, is original. These last 2, a moderator must approve individual posts. I wouldn't recommend that. Students have the expectation that once they submit, their post is public. And display forum description and topics. I don't think we'd need that either, only because the fewer words on a page, the better. And so there are those details. And again, this is just the overarching heading for French culture. Here are some restrictions that I might want to pay attention to: the start and end dates of this forum. So traditionally, discussions usually are about 2 weeks long, or sometimes a week long. But this is where I can adjust the start and end. And a little bit different than Blackboard is, we know that start is visible and end is no longer visible. But this gives us a few nuanced choices here. So visible with access restricted, so they can see that there's a discussion there, but they can also see the start date. Visible with submission restricted, this means that they can read the entire prompt, but there's no submit button for them until this date. And then fully hidden before start, that's kind of what we're used to with these restriction dates. I can also choose to display it in my calendar. And this is where, let's remember, I'm creating a forum. And there are 2 things. The forum is the heading, and then the topic is the actual graded activity. So what I'm going to do down at the bottom here is I'm going to save this forum and add a topic. So it behaves a little bit differently than in Blackboard, than what we might be used to. but you know, a few times through, and you know, you'll get the hang of it. So here I clicked save and add a topic. Now, again, what I need to remember is that the topic is the gradable activity. This is the actual discussion activity that students are going to participate in. And so in this topic, I can adjust the restrictions. Those are going to be the dates. I can also adjust how I'm going to assess this discussion. And so here we have a few more options than we had in Blackboard, and I'll show you what those are. So as a title, you know, maybe this is going to be the French history discussion. And this is where I would put in my elaborate guidelines for participating in this discussion. So I'm not going to type them all in, but essentially I'm going to, you know, be as explicit as possible about my expectations for participation in this discussion. And then here, just for this discussion topic, again, this is the gradable activity now that I'm adjusting here. I can also, I have a few of the options that I saw before. Anonymous posts, users must start a thread before they can read and reply, moderator must approve. So I have those options here at the topic level as well. And then I have something that I didn't see before. I can enable students to rate posts. So this has no bearing on the grading. This is just kind of like a social media type functionality here, where they can we can have 5-star rating scheme, up down vote, up vote only. I'm not a big fan of this, but you know, if you think it's appropriate, go right ahead. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this info. Essentially, that's going to just keep me on this screen. It's going to save what I already put in. Excuse me. And then over here, I'm going to click on restrictions. This is where I edit the dates, the start and end dates for this topic. So if it's not yet ready for prime time, I can hide it. But this is where I can do a start and end date. And I have those same choices that I had before: visible with access, visible with submission restricted, etc. I can display it in the calendar, which I will do. These are those release conditions I talked about a little bit. Again, the prerequisites, if there are any, for accessing this discussion. And this is where I can break this discussion into small groups. If I just wanted, you know, 5 of my 20 students talking about French culture, this is where I would, you know, restrict this topic. Doing this, it's kind of assumes that I've already created groups. So just so you know. So I'm going to save this information on this screen right here on my restrictions. Notice I did not click save and close. I just clicked save. So we have that ability on these multi-part forms to do that. And then on the assessment of this discussion topic, this is where I connect it to the gradebook as a grade item. I am going to click on new grade item because I'm creating this brand new. And for some reason, it does not pull in the title, and I'd love to talk about that with Brightspace or put that on Tammy's spreadsheet. I can choose a short name. Now, for those of you who are going to participate in the gradebook workshop, this short name is kind of cool in that I can truncate the name of this assignment just for my view in the gradebook. What that does is it ensures the narrowest column possible for this graded discussion. So I could choose a short name, you know, like French culture, FC. But here's where I put it in the gradebook, in this category right here. As a new grade item, I'm going to put it in the discussions category of my gradebook. And again, on February 23rd, we'll go through the gradebook, and I'll show you how to create these categories. Maximum points, like before, I'm just going to make this out of 100 points. I think that's all I really need to do. I can make it so a student can exceed, and so that's okay. So if a student gets 105 on this or goes above and beyond, I can accommodate that with extra points. This bonus is really I don't recommend this because this sort of puts this in a bonus category, and so it makes it a bonus item. So I would steer away from this, and reserve this only for, alternative assignments, if you will. So I think there's limited use of this for most instructors. The grading scheme I'll talk about with when we do the grade book. And here, strangely enough, I'm just going to put in the same start and end dates that I had before, just to keep it all consistent. And sure, I'll display it in the calendar, and I'll save this. So this is off of the assessment tab. So funny. Here's where I can add a rubric. Okay, so if I click that, it will just like with the assignments, it will add a rubric here. And here's my favorite thing: allow assessment of individual posts. And this can create a mind shift for anyone who wants to give it a try. And what this enables me to do is, I always had discussions in my courses, and whenever possible, I like this feature quite a bit. And so what it does is it enables me to grade each post as it comes in. Now, that might sound onerous, but in terms of efficiency in grading, I found it extremely efficient, because I would essentially grade something. I would only have to read something once. I'd read it once, I'd grade the post, and I'd never really need to read it again. What it also does is the grade for each post is communicated to the student instantaneously. So students, while they're in the discussion, can sort of monitor their own progress in terms of meeting my expectations. And they can adjust their own behaviors in the discussion while it's going on, which is an instructional thing that I like quite a bit. And so it turns the discussion into a more formative type of activity for students. Lastly, and again, this is a personal choice, but this enabled me to do is communicate to the students that the difference between credit-bearing posts and non-credit-bearing posts. So when a student puts in something like "I agree" or "Yeah, I was thinking the same thing," and if that student thinks that he or she is getting credit for those posts, I can mark them as 0. I can explain to the students that it won't adversely affect their grade, but you need to put in some credit-bearing posts. So it helps me distinguish to the students the difference between credit-bearing posts and non-credit-bearing posts. Lastly, I can select a calculation method if I choose allow assessment of individual posts. And the one that I like is usually sum of post scores. So I could have it so that each post is worth a certain amount. And if they do all of them successfully, it'll add up to the point value of this entire discussion. So I'm going to save and close that. And just going to navigate to it. And when I navigate to it, I want to know if there are any questions. So I want to show you how this renders. The forum renders as the overarching heading, and then the topic is listed beneath it. So let me have your questions on this discussion forum. What do you guys think?
I had one question, Rob. In terms of availability, when you set the dates for a discussion, you also have to make it available somehow for showing, or is that not true? I thought I saw that somewhere. Like, will it just automatically show, or do you have to click make it available?
I think you have to click make it available. Yeah, this was the
Yeah.
discussion that we had with Jeffrey the other day.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm remembering it from.
Let's see
Yeah,
what
so
happens.
can we see it in the
Yeah,
module
could you
now
maybe
and the
show
student
that?
view?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's check it out. Okay, so I don't have to edit anything. So let's go back to the module, click on the content view to get back to the module. And then just like before, I'm going to use existing activities. And this time I'm going to go to discussions. And then remember that everything goes to the bottom in Brightspace like it did in Blackboard. And here it is, the French culture discussion. And what I do is I click this plus sign, and this adds the forum. So I'm going to click insert. And then I'm going to look at it right here. So I'm still in the instructor view. So again, just as a reminder, I'm going to pull it up and move it. And let's see if it's okay. So since this says hide from users, I'm going to assume that it's visible.
Okay,
The availability, since I set the availability, Tammy, maybe that had something to do with making it visible right away.
right, okay,
Okay, so I think that's you know, why it's visible by default, because I set that. But just to be sure, as a reminder, I'm going to go into the student view, and I'm going to make sure I can see it. Make sure students can see it. So I'm going to click on the module. And here it is, French culture. Now let's see how this renders for a moment, just, you know, from a pure design standpoint. First of all, I'm in the student view, so this is what students are going to see. And I see French culture, and see I have let's discuss right here. This is why I recommend for the forum, you keep your description short, because it's being listed with all the rest of the stuff. If I had all my full-blown discussions, instructions here, it would push everything down below it. And so I don't want that. That's why I kind of like the setup here. So I click on the forum, which I remember is called French culture. When I click on the forum, that's when the actual gradable item appears. And here, this is where I suggest you put in any of the more elaborate discussions that you have. You'll notice it drops in the function about you know, start for what is it, post first, where it tells the student you must start a thread before you can reply to other threads. That's nice, because that wasn't always the case in Blackboard, if I remember correctly. And
right.
like, you had to tell your students you're not going to see anything until you post.
But
but-
why, I'm sorry, why
Go
does
ahead.
it say, because it should technically be available now, but it's just because, I guess I'm wondering why those instructions are up there, even if they have to post before they can see it. What, because February 10th, it's already past this time, right? This open time.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
So
I-
yeah, so it just seems superfluous, I guess.
I agree. You know, I kind of wish that weren't there.
Just want to
Yeah.
make sure I got
And-
that thing.
And since I'm in as a student, let's give it a click and see what we see. So this is what a student will see. And this is where hopefully he or she will know to click on start a new thread,
Right.
which is pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess I feel it's misleading, you know, that I'm gonna click on that as a student and say, oh, I guess I'm still waiting for some instructions because it says available on and access restricted. But really, the student can just dive in at this point, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
I'm gonna take that to office hours.
Well, and just I shared this with the group this morning. I'll share it again now. I'm not a huge fan of these availability dates and stuff. I think they lock me down as an instructor a little too much. This is just my personal preference.
Mhm.
I never
I
use
sh-
them. I never
Yeah.
use them. I agree.
Yeah. I just like creating a one pager of all the due dates for things. And if I have to modify anything, I could just modify the one page. Yeah, I like, I don't like anything restricted. So, and at least in my course, there's nothing to hide. So,
But you
um,
have to set them in this, right?
no,
Oh,
no,
you don't,
they're
you could just
optional.
not use them.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, I
I'm
missed that.
sorry. I probably should have said it. I'm not sure if I said it. They're completely optional. You do not have to use them.
Okay,
I'm just using them to show everybody.
okay, great, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rob, I couldn't agree with you more. I never use them. And part of the reason also is when you, if I was to copy this course into the next semester,
Yeah.
I don't have to go in and change 4,000 restriction dates. The only place I really use them is on a midterm or a final.
There you go.
But as it is, I put my own dates into the learning unit. Those I'll change. It's in the text format.
Yep.
But I don't have to go into all these boxes and every assignment and change all these little minutia due dates. I go out of my mind.
Yeah. And if you miss one, it's really embarrassing.
Yes.
You're telling students to do something for you and they can't find it. And
Right.
and the assumption on their part is always they're doing something wrong.
Right.
And it's a terrible spot to be in, so to avoid it all, yeah, I never put anything, and I never ran into issues. So I'm thinking,
Tamara, I think our default has already switched on as we building our courses. I think our default is already starting to say available.
Okay, that's
I don't
good.
think I have to switch that toggle anymore.
Okay, I may be thinking of another section, another function in Brightspace, because there was something where I was so confused. I had the dates set and then I also had to say available, but is that what we fixed? Maybe we fixed.
I think we fixed it already.
Okay, I hope that's right. I'll check on it.
I'm going to check it as I work on it
Yeah.
again this weekend, but I'm pretty sure it looks like our default has already switched.
That's great.
that's cool because yeah, I don't like the default being hidden. Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
One thing I'm noticing, just I get to learn stuff too when I teach these workshops. I'm still in the student view, and I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the discussion forum, French culture, and I'm about to click on the actual gradable activity, and I'm keeping my eye on this breadcrumb trail here. Just so you guys know, this breadcrumb trail really handy in terms of knowing where you are. So I'm in the French Culture Forum. This is in the Unit 1. We just put it in there together. But when I click on the actual the topic, I lose the breadcrumb trail. I'm now in the discussions list. That's just something to be aware of.
Good to know.
I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So other questions on this discussion forum? Let me just get back to where it was.
Well, yesterday we tried to copy one from one learning unit into the other, and we didn't get too far, and we actually never were able to do it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you want to mess with that now, Rob, but
No, I do not.
trying with
No,
Jeffrey.
I don't think he should. I don't think he should. It's going to mess up the video.
Yeah, it was too difficult.
Yeah.
This was very helpful, though. Thank you.
No problem. I just want to show you. I just want to make you aware, you guys aware of something. In order to copy, this is a pain in the neck. I don't know if this is part of your 10-step program here, Tammy.
Yeah,
You told me
I
about
can
this
tell you what they are.
Did you go into import, export, copy components?
We went to manage files, but you have to go to course tools, course admin, manage files, then click the chevron next to that, then hit copy. So is this a shortcut that you have?
It's not much of a shortcut, but this import, export, copy components does it too.
Well, we did go that
inside
route.
A course. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing, because that's from other courses.
Yeah, sorry, that's from course to course.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
So
yeah.
the managed files. All right. So I'll take a
That's
look at that some other
Yeah.
time. All right, cool enough. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is quizzes. And so, by the way, I mentioned to you before, and you see me going into these sections over and over again. And I mentioned to you before that when the reason why I bring you into these areas when creating these things is because you get the full editing tools. I just want to show you that inside the module, here is the discussion that we just created. The only editing possibilities I don't get edit topic, I only get edit properties in place. And this is very limited to the availability and I think the description, and that's it. So all those other features
And the
and
title,
even,
I think, can you change the title, I think? No,
from here, no, I can't.
no.
No. So that's why I keep directing you into the areas. In the areas, you can do all of that. In the discussion area, I can adjust anything I want to in here, but not in the content view. And so that's what I just, and the same goes for this, for the assignment that I created here. You only get edit properties in place. And again, those are the two dates and the description. Okay. All right, the last one we're going to do today are quizzes. And Brightspace calls exams, tests, and quizzes all the same thing, quizzes. And so just like the others, if we click on quizzes, and again, I think yours is a menu item up here, which is great. We come into this area here. And, you know, just, you know, something to remember about quizzes is what it's going to do is it's there's basically a two-step process. And the first step is creating the questions for the quiz. Because when we, in the second step, when we launch the quiz form, one of the first things it's going to ask us to identify is where are the questions. And so if it's only a couple of questions, maybe we want to create the questions right there and then, that's fine, we'll be able to do so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you to the question library so you can see how that functions. And then I'll bring you to the quiz form. Because for most of us, we want to create questions first and then load up those questions into a particular quiz. So when we click on the quizzes link, the very first thing, first view that we come to is this manage quizzes view. And as you can see, I have some quizzes in here that I can edit or you know, do anything I want to. But the second link over is the question library. And it's in this question library where I can create all of my questions, and I have access to, I can create new questions, and I have access to all the different folders that I've created over here. And so I've created these folders, they actually call them sections. So if I have a single quiz in mind, and I want to, excuse me, and I want to create a quiz for, let's say, French culture, I can create a section, and in this new section, I can call it French culture. And when it comes time to add this to the French culture quiz, I could just pull in a whole folder of questions. I don't have to go in and start selecting questions. So I can choose to hide the section title from learners. I may want to do that just because it's just extra text, if you will, on my French culture quiz. I could put in some text here for the entire section. I don't really care about that. I do like these two, this last one here though, shuffle questions in this section. So when I create this section for my students, all these different quiz questions, I'm going to create 10 questions. What it'll do is it'll shuffle the order of those questions for each and every pass at the quiz. So I'm just going to save that. You don't have to create a section. I just did it to show you that I could. And if I click on it now, it's going to be an empty, an empty folder. And here I do have some questions already in my question library. It's not uncommon to reuse questions for instructors who use quizzes. And I'll just show you how to, manipulate these questions right here and now. So I'm in my little French culture section right here. And if I click on new, what I can do is I'll create a new question here. Let me show you what the options are. You have true, false, multiple choice, multiple select. Multiple select behaves a lot like multiple choice, but there are several correct answers. You can adjust the point values for each correct answer. These are self-grading, these first three. You can mix and match questions too on any quiz. So then we have written response questions, short answer, and multiple short answer. These are manually graded. And then we have fill in the blanks, matching, and ordering. Those are self-graded, automatically graded by Brightspace. We designate the correct answers. And then we have these arithmetic questions, significant figures. I'm not sure how they operate. I don't really have much experience with them. And then we have a Likert type question, which is used for surveys. I believe that's an ungraded type of question. So I'll just show you a multiple choice question here. And I guess a French culture question. Oh, this is terrible. Of the 1968 Winter Olympics. And so, Chamonix, there you go.
Chamonix.
Come on. And about Switzerland.
The Three Valleys.
Three Valleys. Okay, so I believe it was Grenoble. And so I designate the correct answer. There's a few cool things here. I can put in hints, like it was in France. that would knock it down to 2, maybe. Or is Three Valleys, Trois Vallées? Yeah, maybe that's but in any case, I can put a hint on each and every question, which is kind of cool. And so I'm just going to save that question. Oh, and I can put default points. But these points will self-adjust. If I put this in a 7-question quiz and each one is worth 10 points, but I make the quiz worth 100, it will all self-adjust. So these are just the default points. But if I have in mind that I'm only going to do 10-question quizzes, they're all going to be worth 100 points. And so 10 points makes sense for me. So I'm just going to save this. And so I can create all different kinds of questions here. And they're pretty cool. Same as in Blackboard. I can also create question pools. I can import from a file too. So if you use a textbook, that actually offers up chapter questions or just test questions, a lot of textbook companies do. They're usually available on the textbook publisher site. And so what I can do too is I can load up a whole load of questions from from my textbook publisher. And essentially what that would mean is I would go to the textbook publisher site, I would download the questions to my computer, and then here, when I go to bring questions into here, I can upload a file, because I already pulled that file onto my hard drive from my textbook publisher. And here I'm going to browse the files. And I do have one. I just have to navigate to it. I kind of have to remember where it is. I think it was in the download folder. As soon as I find the download folder. Come on. Ooh la la. Oh, thank you. There we go. So I have this somewhere in here. Usually says sample file. There it is. Sample question import. So it is this quick. These are 7 questions. If I import them all, I'm still in my French culture folder here. So that's where I imported them to. They're just generic questions. And so I have 8 questions. I want to add a few more. This is where I can browse my question library. And so in my question library, for some reason, I don't want this any. Source collection. Let's say. I guess I'll take this quiz in. Already imported. Look at that. Oh, this is real funny. Killing me. So browse existing questions. Come on. For some reason it's stuck on this source here. Source collection.
Hit done editing. What does it say on that main page?
Yeah, done
Done
editing
editing.
questions. Yeah, then I'll be completely done with this folder, which is fine. So I'm in the question library. I'm just going to go in the question library one more time. These are all my questions. So let's just see if I can. Interesting. Okay. No big deal. I'm just going to use this folder. In essence, you know, in the question library, these are all of my questions. And I can choose from anything when I go to create my quiz. So I'm going to click done editing questions. I'm going to show you how to create a quiz. So we're going to click on new quiz. Really like this is sort of a new view in Brightspace here. And launches like a brand new window. I don't know if any of you noticed that. But my other window is still open. It just, when I created a quiz, gives me a full screen here. And so I'm going to do a French culture quiz. I believe that's what I'm doing here. French culture quiz. And so I have to put in a title. And can't edit these points until I upload the questions. I can put it make a column for it in the grade book, and that's what I'll do. I'll put it in its category here, and again, this is I'm not too crazy about this terminology here. Editor link to existing. For me, I already created a gradebook category, and again, I'll show you how to do that in the gradebook workshop that's coming up on the 23rd. But I already have quizzes category, so I put it in the quizzes category. Click OK. I wish it said in quizzes category. Now that there's a column for it, it wants a point value. So I'm just going to make it out of 100 to make things easier. I can put a due date in here if I want to. This will add it to the calendar. I can put in a description for this quiz. And but if I want to start adding questions, this is where I add the add existing questions, because I've already created them. So this is where I browse the question library. And this is where I want to have my question library, you know, kind of ready here. So this is the source is the question library here, but I can go to, let's see if it'll just show me sections. Let's try that again. Add existing questions. Come on. Browse the question library. Here are all my 84 items here. Oh, I see. I think my section is going to be, it's module 2. What was it? French culture. Is it going to be at the end? Just to make things interesting, it is. So the reason why I'm saying that is because whenever we put something in Brightspace, it defaults to the bottom of the screen. So that's what's happening here. It's not alphabetically listed. So here's my French culture section. If I import that, okay, tells me that the shuffling is on. Here are the questions that were in there. There were 9 questions in there. I want to add just one. No, I don't want to. I just want to add one more question just to make this a 10-question quiz. And so I added my section, but I also added one more here. I think I need one more if I want 10 questions. Sorry. So add existing, browse the library, and I'll just add this question. And there I have 10 questions. So I'm kind of good to go. All right, so you may see like total points 38, but the quiz is out of 100. Okay, so it'll adjust the math for me. If I use percentage based on everything, it will just adjust it as needed. So those default values don't really matter. Each question will be sort of weighted evenly, even though these points are different. I save that info, and on these forms, on these multi-part forms, just as a reminder, there's save and close, which obviously closes me out of this, but there's also a save button. So if I put some work into just one of these sections here, I want to save it and keep working. So I'm going to look at the availability dates. There are no surprises here in terms of what we've seen before. Visible, invisible, the release conditions, the special access. Okay, so for quizzes, a lot of times students request accommodations. If we time the quiz, especially in a fully online course, we usually leave a quiz or a test or an exam open for 3 or 4 days to allow for students to access it. Usually there's a large window of opportunity. Even if we time the quiz, we give access for a couple of days. If students need access beyond that point, as before, we can manage the special access. We can put in a password for this quiz, which I think is more like if you're in a computer lab and you're giving this quiz all day to do like different classes and stuff, you might want to create a different password, but I don't think this will apply to any of us. Same with the IP restrictions. You can figure out the IP in your computer room, and if you're giving it out in your computer room, you can restrict it just to that room. But for us, I don't think any of that's going to apply. In terms of timing and display, this is where we can time the quiz. And if I click on manage timing, I basically get 3 choices: no time limit, recommended time limit, or enforced time limit. So I'm going to go over to enforced time limit. That's kind of what we're used to in Blackboard. And it's going to ask me a couple questions. So what is the actual time limit? Here it's 2 hours, 120 minutes. There's a grace period before. So 5 minutes before the end of the exam. I might do 15 minutes before the end of the exam, before they've exceeded the time limit. There's a grace period, flag the quiz attempt. So what do you want? What do you want the quiz to do once the time runs out? Do you want to allow the student to continue working? That's the default. If the student submits, beyond the time limit, you'll see that. So it's not like the student will get anything over on you. But do you want the quiz to prevent the student from making further changes? I believe, I'm not exactly sure, but I think that this means that it will submit automatically when it hits the time limit. I'm not 100% sure of that, but that's what I'm guessing. And then here, this one's a little draconian, but allow the student to continue working, but automatically score the attempt as 0 beyond the time limit. So all three of those options are at your disposal. So I'm going to click OK. So it's an enforced time limit of 120 minutes. By the way, was never my style as an instructor to use time limits on quizzes, but I appreciate that some disciplines and some teaching styles, need it. So, but I'm showing you the features. I'm not really endorsing them, and timing these things, these experiences. I leave it to you to figure out what you want to do there.
Private things are candy. Oh, they're delicious. I used to eat them at work all the time. So
Hold on, I'm just going to mute.
Awesome. It's amazing.
So just going to mute. All right, cool. And then so that's time limit, and then a few things on the paging. Do you want all the questions displayed at once? Do you want 1 question per page, 5 questions per page, 10 per page, et cetera, et cetera? So you can choose how this is going to display for students. This one I really like, shuffle questions and sections within the quiz. This makes sure that no students see the same order of questions. And to allow hints, this is where those little hints that we can put on each and every question, you can choose to display those or not. I think by default they're not shown. Here we have the ability to disable email, instant messages, and alerts within Brightspace. So this is just Brightspace email, Brightspace IMs, Brightspace alerts. Keep the student focused, mitigate cheating, maybe a little bit. There is a header and footer on the quiz that you can use. So if there's any information you want them to see while they're taking the quiz, both of these are sticky. In other words, they're in the top and bottom margins, like all other headers and footers, but they remain static while the student is going through the questions and the pages. Some faculty like to put help desk information on here, but if there's, you could put anything you want. You can put links and all that kind of good stuff in there too, if you want to make this like an open book quiz. So there's that. That's under timing and display. Then there's attempts and completion. By default, 1 attempt is allowed. But if we go into more than 1 attempt, like let's say 3 attempts, we get a few questions in terms of how do you want the grade to be calculated? Highest, average, last attempt. Those are probably the most popular. On new attempts, do we want to allow answers for previously incorrect questions? Only allow answers. Sorry, that's important. On new attempts, only allow answers for previously incorrect questions. So is this more of a formative device rather than a summative device? some instructors use quizzes for like weekly comprehension of the readings, that kind of thing. In those cases, I have seen lots of instructors allow multiple attempts so that students will, keep trying to get 100, that kind of thing. And I can, if I choose several attempts, I can put some conditions on it. So this is basically creating thresholds for attempt number 1. If I create a minimum and a maximum score and a student scores in here, then it will release attempt number 2. And then here on attempt number 2, if they get between a certain score, only if they get between a certain score will it release attempt number 3. So, fairly robust here in terms of the possibilities, but you might find some of this compelling. So that's why I mention it. Here, the category is not the gradebook category, but a quiz category in itself. And then a notification email. If I want to be notified in my email that students have been completing this, if I have 20 students, I'll get 20 emails. And then completion tracking. Oh, this is the check mark that students get next to this content item, essentially. So in the content view, you may have noticed that there were checks next to a lot of the items in the particular content view. Every time a student completes something, he or she gets a check mark next to that to serve as a checklist. Here you can set it so that they need to reach a certain threshold before they get that check mark. So again, sort of like, is this a summative device or a formative device? Because if we withhold the check mark, student is obviously going to try it again in order to complete the activity. So by default, the student is marked as complete after submitting the quiz attempt, but it is your option to create a minimum passing grade, essentially, in order for students to get that check mark. And lastly, let me just fold that up so you can see where it's at. Lastly, on evaluation and feedback on this quiz, by default, auto-publish attempt results immediately upon completion. So, Tammy, this is a default that you might want to check on your version of Brightspace. And then synchronize to gradebook on publish. This is fairly common, and I believe would be the choice for most instructors.
Are you saying, Rob, that we could make it a default?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's the default here to auto publish attempt results.
Okay, so I'll just check that it can be that.
Yeah, but some instructors like it, they don't want they want the student to take the quiz and, just like in a classroom, not see the results until they're released.
Right.
This selection makes it so that
They'll see it.
they'll see it automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, so I think I may talk about that at the advisory group with that.
yeah, I think it's worth a discussion.
Yeah.
I would say. When published, display to learners the attempt grade. Do you want them to see, since I chose multiple attempts, I want them to see the attempt grade for each one, and no questions, or I have these: incorrect answers, questions only; incorrect questions only; all questions with correct; all questions without correct answers. So when they do see the results of their quiz and they click in, what do I want them to see? So fairly, useful. Yeah. It really depends on how you use your quiz. And here you can customize the quiz results displays. This tells you what the default is. Your quiz has been submitted successfully. And so, like, this is all the verbiage that students see once they've submitted a quiz, but you have the ability to edit this view and even put in more information if we click additional view. So there's lots you can do on these quizzes. And again, if you just want to keep it simple, you can accept most of the defaults and you're good to go. But I do want to show you like everything that is possible here. So let me stop here and ask if there are any questions on the quiz form here.
I have one. It would be interesting. I use some of my, I'm sorry, I didn't turn myself on.
That's all right.
It would be, most quizzes that I do are not, not an issue, but I do have end of module quizzes that I time. What happens if the time expires? I think we should try to nail that because it should be submitted as far as they got. So tell me, maybe you can check that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the answer to that. I have not yet done it.
We can test it, Lou. I can, right?
Yeah.
Because you can put a test
Yeah.
in your practice course and I can go in and take it and just, set
Okay.
the time, maybe
I
set the
appreciate
time
it.
for 2 minutes and then, we'll see what happens.
You see what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Robert, I have a question.
Yes.
Are you able to view a quiz in the student profile?
Good question. Unfortunately, no. But what you do have here is this preview. And essentially, this is a student view of the quiz. And so where I'm at right now is I have not yet saved and closed this quiz. And what I have here is this preview button. And it kind of serves the same purpose.
Yeah.
So if I click the preview button, a new window launches. And this is essentially what students are going to see. I can't believe they're going to see this drop down. They're not going to see that drop down. But here I have a start quiz button. This is just for the instructor, all of this info.
What's the rationale? I mean, I could see everything else, like you said, I could see the instructions.
Let's
I could
give
see
it
the questions.
you know what? Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Because I've just been using this preview button for so long.
I think it's like that in Blackboard too, isn't it?
No,
you-
you could see the quiz on the student profile.
As a generic student, but
Yeah.
but not when you log in as a particular student, I think. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to save and close this. And just like before, I'm going to put it in my module. I'm going to click the content view, hit existing activities, pull in this quiz. Go always at the bottom. And I'm just going to check it real quick. Yeah, see, by default, it's hidden.
Mhm.
So I want to unhide it. And then let's check out with the student view. View as a student. Navigate back to the quiz, click on the unit 1 there. And down at the bottom right here, here's the quiz. So I think I stand corrected here. It's
You can't.
quick start quiz to do attempt number 1.
But there's no start button.
There's no start button.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
has something to do with that having a student account. That I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, again, I'm just going to back out of the student quiz here. Let me show you what you do see in the preview, because I didn't go into that. And again, I'll just say it one more time. This is only in the quizzes section. Again, this is like one of those tools that you have to use. So I think right under here, you got a preview.
Mhm.
So that's kind of cool. I don't have to go into it. So, okay, a little less. Oh, no, same thing. Start quiz button down below. So this is what this quiz is going to look like for me, for a student. So I got the time limit up here. And so I can start doing my questions here. And so this is what the ordering questions look like. And so if I submit it, 9 of 10 questions saved. Why only 9 of 10? Oh, I didn't do this one. Guess I'm good to go there. So submit quiz. You are about to submit your quiz. Once you press submit, you can't return. Allow this preview attempt to be graded in the grade quiz area. Sure, why not? Submit it. And then what do I see? Just my quiz has been submitted successfully. Attempt number 1. I click done. So I got a 14 out of 38. Attempt number 1. So I guess I have to back out and then go back in. If I were a student, I'd have to back out, go back in, and try attempt number 2, because remember I set this at 3 attempts. So Jeffrey and I talked about this the other day. Different than in Blackboard, Joe, is that we can't save the data, you know, which is a bummer. Like in Blackboard, you were able to actually save the data. It asked you a question right before you left the preview. But here we can't. Exit the preview. I am curious though. So manage quizzes, French culture quizzes. No attempts. That's a bummer. See, what Blackboard did fairly well is it set up like you know, like this kind of like fake account for all the preview users. Yeah. But it doesn't do it. Attempt logs. Let's see. It does sort of log my attempt here. All right.
Or maybe they change that in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I'm wondering if you have any questions about these 3 types of activities or anything else Brightspace related.
I just, yeah, go. Someone else.
Considering I wrote down who loved it.
Do you have to, can you hear me?
I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Okay. So with saving, it seems like some activities you have to click save and exit, and others, like when you change the title of a module, you don't have to click save at all. Is there any rule like across the board what you have to click save for or not? If not, I'm sure it'll just be experience, but I just wanted to give that guidance or a tip.
No. Excellent question. In my experience, no. I think there's no rule across the board.
Okay.
It's a good question though, Tammy. I've never asked it myself. Because yeah, like for instance, when you create a module name, you know, you basically type it in and hit enter. It doesn't even tell you to hit enter or submit or anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and it works. Yeah.
And then it works.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
I have another question. Will you be addressing the point issue about when we do the exam thing, the grade?
When we do the grade book, I will. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Because I didn't understand how that worked at all.
Yeah, Lou, do you just as an aside, do you have a points-based grade book or a percentage-based grade book?
Percentage. Everything's percentage.
Okay. All right. I think you'll be satisfied with what you see, in that we have a lot of control over the student view of the grade book.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.